God isn't looking for leaders who can speak well and command a crowd. In fact, according to the Bible, God prefers someone with a speech impediment or different abilities speaking. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. So there's this crazy story in the Bible where God is looking for somebody to be a leader, to stand up to the most powerful person in the world at that time, the Pharaoh, and is going to have to lead a bunch of people, inspire a bunch of people, do some really hard things. And the person that God picks is very reluctant, tries to get out of it, like every time is like, yeah, but what about this? But what about this? But how can I prove that you asked me to do this? Over and over and over again until the very end, the person reveals like what was really going on, why they really didn't want to do it, and it's a lot of shame and pain. The person reveals that they have a speech impediment, and that it says that they're like slow of voice and tongue. And I know people like this, and I know how they're treated. I know that a lot of times those people have brilliant minds, but because they don't speak well or normally, well is a frustrating word, but because they don't speak like everybody else, people assume that they are dumb, assume that they aren't intelligent when they are brilliant. And that kind of assumption hurts. And when it goes your whole life, when people assume that, you can internalize it. It can become, your voice can become a source of deep shame and pain, and you can just assume about yourself that you can't do those things. And that's what happens. The person says to God, I can't do it. God, like, you've given me all the proof, all the things that I need, but really, to be honest, you know I can't speak well. I've got this thing with my voice. We don't know if it's a cognitive thing or if it's a physiological thing, but yeah. And God says, no, that doesn't disqualify you, and works out a way for that person to do exactly what God has said and to end up speaking to the most powerful person in the world. But there's a specific spiritual belief that you can sort of choose to believe that can really help you become the best version of yourself that echoes in this story. It's the story of Moses, by the way, and it's the subject of this week's book club podcast. It just released on Unbelief Podcast. You just search Unbelief wherever you get podcasts. But here's the belief. There are times in our lives where we feel like God or the universe, the divine, everything's working together for us to do something. We get really passionate about some issue and we feel like maybe we should be the ones to act. And then we feel like we are not qualified. Maybe we have something wrong with our speech. Maybe we don't have the social connections. Maybe we have done something that we feel like disqualifies us. If somebody found out, that they would say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that thing. And but this passage says, no. If God, if the universe, if the divine, whatever you want to call it, is asking you to do something, you can do it. And whatever you feel like is disqualifying you doesn't. And so what you need to do is work through it. Figure out how you can overcome that obstacle. And if it's just an obstacle in your mind, just start. Just go for it. I don't know if that belief works for you, but if it does, I hope you'd pick it up, because I really have seen people, including myself, that when you adopt that belief and like work it out in your life gets a lot better.